In just the last decade, artificial intelligence has gone from something out of a sci-fi movie to a technology that's, well, it's shaping our everyday lives. But as AI gets smarter and faster, the US government's game plan for managing it has had to evolve too. So today, we're going to dig into how that strategy has completely transformed across three very different presidential administrations.
And that really is the critical question for our time, isn't it? This incredibly powerful tech is being built and rolled out at lightning speed. But who's actually setting the guardrails? Well, the answer? It's complicated, and it tells a fascinating story of shifting priorities at the very highest levels of government.
So the official government conversation about AI policy, it really kicked into gear in the final year of the Obama presidency. At this point, it wasn't about cracking down with regulations or racing against other countries. It was really about just trying to understand what was on the horizon and laying some foundational groundwork.
In the last few months of 2016, the administration dropped this trio of landmark reports. The first one was basically a big survey of where AI was at in society. The second laid out a strategic plan for how the government itself should handle research and development. And the third, it zeroed in on what was probably the biggest concern at the time, how AI and automation were going to completely reshape the American job market.
And this blog post from the White House, man, it just nails the vibe of that era. The whole conversation wasn't just about the tech itself, but about its real-world impact. The number one concern was getting the country ready for the massive economic shakeup that everyone saw coming with AI.
So if you boil it all down, this era was about setting up some core principles. The government's role was seen as kind of twofold. On one hand, fuel innovation with R&D, but on the other, seriously study the impact on society and push for diversity in the field, all while basically trusting the free market to take the lead.
Okay, so you have that foundation laid, but things were about to take a sharp turn. The Trump administration came in and inherited all this early work, but they took U.S. AI policy in a completely different and way more competitive direction.
And you can literally see the pivot just by looking at the words they started using. The conversation shifted away from things like diversity and economic studies, and a whole new vocabulary took over. American values, maintaining global leadership, and a really strong belief in as little regulation as possible.
For the first couple of years, the philosophy was super simple. The best thing the government could do to help AI grow was, well, get out of the way. The idea was to let American companies innovate and run fast without getting bogged down by what they saw as a bunch of red tape.
But yeah, that whole hands-off thing, it didn't stick around for long. A huge turning point came from an unexpected place, the Department of Defense. Secretary Jim Mattis actually wrote a memo straight to the president, basically saying, hey, we need a real national strategy for AI, and we need it now.
So why the sudden change of heart? Well, it all came down to one word: competition. The Pentagon was sounding the alarm that the U.S. was not keeping up with the huge state-funded AI plans being rolled out by China. All of a sudden, AI wasn't just about the economy anymore. It was a matter of national security.
And that's what sparked the creation of the American AI Initiative. I mean, the branding itself tells you the whole story, right? The policy was now explicitly about making sure America stayed on top, framing tech development as this big national project.
And check out this quote from a 2020 White House report. It just perfectly sums up the mindset. The goal was crystal clear. The United States and its allies had to lead the world in order to shape AI's future based on a set of so-called American values.
All right, so that brings us to the most recent chapter, under the Biden administration. And here, the policy evolves again. It keeps that focus on competition, for sure, but adds a really heavy new emphasis on safety, on guardrails, and on human rights.
The approach got way more structured, organized around these 6 pillars. And while innovation is still right there at number 1, you can see these new priorities popping up, like advancing trustworthy AI and international cooperation. It signals a much more collaborative and, frankly, cautious approach. A huge development here was the proposal for an AI Bill of Rights. This was a really big deal. It was the first real attempt to create a framework that would explicitly protect people from things like algorithmic bias or their data being misused as automated systems make more and more decisions for us.
And all of this really came to a head in late 2023 with that landmark executive order on AI. The key thing to understand here is the shift from just talking about broad ideas to ordering specific actions. The order requires safety testing for the most powerful AI models, it creates ways to protect civil rights, and it commits the U.S. to working with partners around the globe on a set of rules for everybody.
So, after tracing this whole evolution through 3 administrations, it kind of leaves you wondering,
Where exactly are we now? The truth is, US AI policy is at a major crossroads, and where it goes next is anything but certain.
You can really see two possible futures branching out from here. There's the current path, which is all about strong safety rules and working with other countries. But there's also a very real potential for a comeback of that market-first thinking, which would probably mean rolling back some of these rules to prioritize pure, unhindered competition.
And that really is the big question, isn't it? The story of US AI policy so far has been this pendulum swinging back and forth between careful foundational work and aggressive head-to-head competition. As this tech gets exponentially more powerful, is the US ever going to land on a stable set of rules? Or is that pendulum just going to keep on swinging?